All right, Star Wars Rebellion. I've done the setup here. The Empire's divided. I've got a fleet up here in Salakami that's going to go after the rebel-controlled Mon Calamari. Imperials have another fleet at Mandalore, a third fleet here in Sullust, and finally their Death Star. Cool-looking guy over here in Mustafar. This fleet in Sullust, they want to take Naboo, which is a loyal rebel space. The other loyal rebel world is up here in Balthawia. The Empire can't get to it anytime quickly, so that looks like that's going to be pretty safe for the rebels. All right, so the rebels then do their setup. They put some units on their base, and then they decide to deploy their fleet and some additional ground troops down here in an Ord Mantell. It's neutral, but the rebels can deploy in either rebel or neutral areas here for the setup. Their goal here is to threaten Coruscant, which is the capital of the Empire, and there is an objective card, although not right away, but down here, which will give the rebels 2 points of reputation each turn they control Coruscant. So it's a very powerful one. This puts a threat to the Empire. So the Empire's is going to have to respond with one of their battle fleets to make sure this doesn't happen. And again, this is going to be the kind of thinking the rebel player will need to have during the game. They know they can't defeat these fleets generally. Occasionally you can defeat an Imperial fleet. But what they're trying to do is distract the Empire to get them out of the idea of just going around and taking the worlds, slowing them down, distracting them, whatever they can do. And that's kind of how you play the rebels in this game. Okay, so I've also selected the missions here for the rebels. So each side gets 4 of these mission cards, and they get them every turn. So they return to the hand after you play them. And then you start and you draw 2 of these other mission cards. These are one-shot affairs. Once you use them, they're out of the game. And the rebels also start with an objective card. So it's worth 1 point of reputation. And if you have at least 4 rebel systems contain a rebel unit, that's a difficult one to do early. It can be an almost impossible one if the Empire is very aggressive and moving. We'll see if that happens or not. But the rebels aren't going to do anything to try and fulfill this at this point. If it happens, great, but they're not going to spend their turn worrying, playing towards that. So their 2 missions they did draw are Daring Rescue, which allows you to rescue a captured leader, so that's nice. Insurance, in case the Empire captures one of their leaders. And Rogue Squadron Raid. This requires a leader with 2 fists. None of my starting leaders have that. Of course, I could play these 2 on it. They combined would have 2 of the, I think those are Special Forces icons. That's a nice card. I'll look to play that. At some point, it destroys Imperial units off the build queue. So that could be nice to either go after ground or space units, depending if, what the Empire needs. So what I did decide to do, in my 2 starting action cards, I got R2-D2, which I put, of course, on Princess Leia. That's a little ring. He gives a one-time bonus at some point during the game. And Rebel Planning, I can throw Dodonna on this to draw another objective card. I will use that at some point, probably next turn, we'll see. But this turn I need Dodonna to move the fleet, because the fleet's over here. So I'm holding Dodonna in the pool. That means I can use him to either oppose missions, or I can use him to move troops on the board. The other 3 leaders, I've got Mon Mothma here. She is going to build alliance, and that means basically turning a planet over to loyalty to the rebellion. She's very good at diplomacy. She's got plenty of those icons there. General Riken's going to sabotage. And there's some advantages to doing that. And Leia is going to use infiltration. That's going to allow her to go through that, or the rebel player to go through the probe deck quickly. This is a fairly standard opening turn for the rebels in my experience, unless the rebels get some draw some mission cards right away that they can use. But these 3 missions are kind of the bread and the butter of Rebel play, which is going to be build alliance, sabotage, infiltrate, and these things again, especially these 2 are sabotage slows the Imperial player down. They're gonna, if the Imperial player wants to pull that sabotage markers off, they have to spend actions to do so. Okay, so that's their thinking and what they're gonna do. What's the Imperial player want to do? Well, let's look what they got. They've got these 4 missions they always have, which are R&D, Rule by Fear, Capture Rebel Operative, Gather Intel. They'll always have those every turn. For their 2 unique missions they draw off the start, they got Interrogation Droid and Interrogation. These are interesting ones. This one in particular, Interrogation Droid. So they have to capture a Rebel leader. And then they can play this, and if successful, the Rebel player must name 3 systems. One of these systems must contain the Rebel base. Ouch. That's a great card. That's a great mission. So they would like to try and capture a Rebel leader this turn, and then use this card, this Interrogation Droid card, next turn. So I'm going to sit and think about what they want to do. Now, normally I don't. My default plan as the Empire is just to do lots of fleet movement and take lots of systems right away. However, sometimes the cards are going to tell you that maybe, try something else, or something else is going to make a little more sense. And I think that's the case here. If I can get this in play, that's a big one for me. Of course, the problem, I only have 4 leaders. I really need to move a fleet up here into Mon Cal. I would really like to move a fleet into Naboo. I would like to move a fleet here to go back to defend Coruscant. Well, that's 3 of my 4 leaders. So yeah. So I'm going to take a look and see what I can do with them. And I'll be right back. Okay, so I made my decision here for the Empire. Decided to do 2 missions. I decided I'm not going to try and capture a Rebel, character this turn, mainly because Interrogation Droid requires 3 of those intel icons, and I would have to use 2 leaders to do that. And that's also a tough one to pull off because the captured leader is going to use all their skill icons at defense. So I really need to get different leaders into play for the Empire really before I want to use this. All right. So what I do? Well, I left 2 leaders available to move troops. I wanted to do 3, but I decided I'm going to do 2 movements. And for my 2 missions, well, I put Tarkin on R&D. This is good for removing sabotage. I'm assuming the Rebel player is going to sabotage. I also can draw from this projects deck and get great things like Super Star Destroyers, or I can get the Super Laser, which can blow up a planet, which is fun. We love massacring a whole world of people. And I also took a Rule by Fear, and the Emperor is going to do that one. And that's basically the Imperial version of Build Alliance. It allows the Empire to bring worlds into, to have loyalty towards the Empire. So that's my initial setup. The Empire, or the Rebel player goes first, and we alternate play. So there's kind of a style you want to do, with the play. You want to do things that give your opponents less opportunity. And let me show you how this kind of works. So I'm going to do the sabotage. I'm going to start off with sabotage. And now this mission says it can be opposed. Okay, attempt in any system of successful plays a sabotage. So I have to attempt it. So that means the Empire could send a leader to oppose it. They do have a couple of leaders here. Vader would be very good at opposing this. He would roll 3 dice to my 1. He would likely oppose it. So, what do I want to do? Well, where would I like to, well, I'm not going to do sabotage first. Tell you what, I'm going to do this one first because this one makes a lot more sense. This is infiltration. And what we want to do is we want to make decisions hard for the Empire. And that's going to come a lot like this. So I'm going to do this infiltration here with Leia. Now, if the Empire wants to oppose, they could. Well, actually, they can't. They don't have a leader to do it. But let's say they did. If they would oppose it, they would take a leader from the pool and put it here. However, the way the movement rules work, once you have a leader in the system, you can't move units out of that system. Okay, so if they went to oppose, that would lock down this fleet, and that fleet could not move into Mon Calamari. So it's a good way to do missions for players, to do them in areas, if you can, where the opponent wants to move those troops. So that puts them in a position if they can either oppose you and not move their troops, or not oppose you and be able to move their troops. All right, so in this case, no opposition. Leah is going to be successful. Infiltration means I'm going to draw 2 cards off the objective deck. One's going to go in the top and the other's going to go in the bottom. And we're going to see what we get here and which one of these looks good for us. Okay, we've got regional support. That's worth 1 rep. Play if all populous systems in one region have rebel loyalty. Okay, it's kind of tough, but maybe. And this one is a combat one, crippling blow. Play after at least 3 health worth of Imperial ground units have been destroyed in a combat that you initiated. Boy, I wish I had that in my hand right now, because there are 3 ground units here I could take out. I don't know that I'm going to have a chance to do this one. So I'm going to keep regional support on top. Like I said, if I could have this in my hand now, I would definitely play that, or I put that on top. I don't know. Maybe you know what? Maybe I will put this on top. I may have an opportunity to use that next turn. We'll see. Okay. All right, the other one goes on the bottom. All right, so that's it for Leia. Now it's the Empire's turn. Now the Rebels could have moved this fleet and made it safe. They did not. So now the Empire, they can move this fleet and attack them, and that seems like it should be the best thing. That'll leave them, though, only 1 movement left if they do that. And that's part of the reason the Rebels didn't move the fleet first. They saw there were only, 2 leaders here in the leader pool, and if they want to move in here and do a round of combat, the Rebels are fine with that. That wastes kind of an action. That'll save either Mon Calamari or Naboo this turn. So, what does the Empire do? I'll come back and do another video and kind of finish up the first turn.